where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is God damn it. This is Lillian. Willow's with me. Look, I accidentally just
ate the microphone.
I was like, biting it. I don't know what the fuck is wrong.
We were
with
just talking about food. So.
That's right. So maybe I'm just biting because I'm hungry.
This will probably be released on Turkey Day.
Well, not.
Oh yeah, the day after, huh?
Yes, because if you're a patron, you get it a day early.
Patrons get it on Turkey Day, even though we don't celebrate that holiday.
Well, I mean, I do eat a meal that is in that tradition, but I just don't call it that because yuck.
Yeah.
Look, I like turkey and I like pie.
I like food in general.
Yeah, me like food.
Yeah.
Yum, yum. Anyway, do you want to announce the theme for next month?
I thought we did that. Did we do
that? I don't remember. So let's do it again.
Okay. Oh,
yeah, dumbass.
I don't know why I thought we were going to do it in unison.
So stupid.
Oh, y'all, I'm so tired. So next month, we decided to do one case all month long and just really deep dive into it.
So hard. So you want to tell them the case we're doing? Because I'm excited to dig into this.
We're going to be doing the Texas killing fields.
Ooh, it's rough. But
it is rough.
It has always been one of those cases that has held a fascination for me.
Yeah, and we were both going to cover it numerous times under different themes,
but that doesn't fit a theme because it's just so much.
Well, it did for cold case,
yes.
But again, it is so much information.
It deserves a whole month.
I think we would be doing it a disservice. I think we would be doing the victims a disservice and the community a disservice.
Agreed.
If we were to just try to squeeze it all into a 1 hour episode.
Or even like a two-parter.
Yeah.
It just needs 4 episodes.
Absolutely. There's so many docu-series done on it, and I don't know. There's just so much information out there that we can really get into it and really, I don't know, highlight a lot of important issues and a lot of important people, you know?
Yeah, I wanted to really do victim focused and I don't know.
And suspect focused because, again, this is a cold case. Technically, we don't know who could have done these killings, and it could have been multiple. We don't know. So, I'm excited to deep dive into this. It's been something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I'm glad that we decided it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would like to do once a year an entire just one case for a whole month.
I think it'd be good for December.
Agreed, because it's, I don't know. Usually we take December off, but we're not this year.
Yeah.
We don't want to.
That's right.
Actually, I just found like the last time we took December off, I was kind of weirdly sad. Like, I don't know.
It was. I know that we needed it because of what we were going through at the time.
Yeah, personally.
But also we just worked day in and day out. Our schedule was intense the first 2 years of this podcast.
Yes. And we both like, and
we were bleeding ourselves dry.
Yeah. And in addition, it's important to note, like, it had always been my intention to go from 3 episodes a week down to 2. Mm-hmm. That since we started.
Yeah.
But I wanted to really establish ourselves a little bit first.
Right.
And I got the sense of burnout coming, I would say, at the end of year 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm really glad that we have switched this format.
It's a nice pace. It allows us to stave off the burnout. Even though it tends to come in from time to time, we are neurodivergent, so we kind of can't help that.
Yeah, and it's not like a burnout for the podcast. I just get burned out in general.
And life is very overwhelming.
We're poor and it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's cool.
But who isn't? Really?
Right?
I know we're speaking to the choir.
We are, so we're going to shut up.
So still going with the theme of family members who killed together. This is the second episode, part 2 of the Hillside Stranglers, focusing on cousins Kenneth Bianchi and Angelo Buono. Trigger warnings for this case are mental health issues, strangulation, sexual assault, and sex work. In last week's episode, we discussed the killings of the Hillside Stranglers. This week, we'll deep dive into their background and what drove them to commit these gruesome murders. Starting where we left off in January of 1979, with 27-year-old security guard Kenneth Bianchi being arrested in Bellingham, Washington, after the double murder of roommates Karen Mandick and Diane Wilder. Bianchi knew they had him for all the murders. He knew that they had all the evidence they needed to put him away for life immediately. He also knew very well that what they would do to him if he didn't confess. So he told them everything, including that he had multiple personalities, hoping that he'd be considered unfit to stand trial and evade prison by pleading insanity. He claimed that he didn't kill those women. His alter, Steve Walker, did. Apparently, he had watched the movie Sybil the night before.
I was just about to say, because that's about when that movie Sybil came out.
It's literally right after. Yeah. And from all accounts, he did, in fact, watch that movie, like, literally the night before he was arrested.
It irritates me so much.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, though, it was barely 1979 and psychology was in its infancy in this country. A lot of criminals were using this tactic back then, and it worked time and time again. So Bianchi thought that they'd believe him and that he'd get off scot-free like so many others before him. Not that the institutions were all that great at that time either. Regulations in prisons and mental health facilities were minimal compared to today. The judge picked 5 psychiatrists to interview Bianchi. 2 were suggested by the defense, 2 were suggested by prosecution. And after these interviews, many said that at first they did think that he had what is now referred to as dissociative identity disorder. But after talking with him, they realized that he in fact was a compulsive liar and a master manipulator. It's likely today that he would be diagnosed with either narcissism or some sort of psychopathic disorder. He would end up taking a plea deal, pleading guilty of 7 murders in exchange of implicating his cousin, Angelo Buono. Angelo Buono was born on October 5th, 1934 in Rochester, New York. His parents were immigrants from San Buono, Italy. His parents divorced when he was only 5 years old, and he moved with his mother, Jenny, and his sister, Cecilia, to Glendale, California. Not much is said about his childhood, but his criminal behavior started in his early teens. He burglarized, he stole whenever he could. By 14, he was bragging to classmates that he sexually assaulted several young girls. He idolized a serial rapist dubbed the Red Light Bandit, Carl Chessman, stating that he should have killed his victims instead of just sexually assaulting them and then fleeing the scene. His hatred towards women grew throughout his adolescence. His mother said that he began yelling at her and calling her awful names like whore and cunt, which in an Italian family, no, you don't do that.
No.
Especially an Italian family. Now, Angelo would then go to drop out of high school at 16 years old and was arrested several times on larceny and theft charges. He was sent to reform school, which he ended up escaping soon after. By 17, he was captured by California Youth Authority and sent back to reform school. When he was 21, he got a 17-year-old girl named Geraldine Vinyl pregnant. He married her and left her less than a week later. He divorced her, refused to pay child support, and wouldn't allow his son to call him father because he was starting another family with his girlfriend at the time, Mary Catherine Castillo. The next year, she was pregnant, and the two got married. He actually stayed with her and fathered 5 children with her until eventually Mary had enough with him. He was violent. It was a very violent household. Angelo would take out his aggression on Mary in front of the children. He'd leave and run the streets all night, acquiring a few theft charges and stints in jail for petty crimes. One time, when Mary tried to leave him, he handcuffed her, shoved a gun into her stomach, and threatened to kill her. So she stayed. But the abuse towards her was one thing. When Angelo Buono allegedly began sexually assaulting their 2-year-old daughter,
fuck off,
Mary found out, and she immediately took the kids and left and never looked back.
Amen, sister.
Angelo continued his abuse with another woman, 25-year-old Nanette Campina, which Nanette. I love the name Nanette.
It is pretty.
She was a single mother of 2 children, and like Mary, she too was too scared of Buono to leave. Nanette was pregnant with their first child together, when Nanette was pregnant with their first child together, Angelo ended up getting sentenced to a year in prison for stealing cars. But because he was about to have his 7th child, the court opted for a shorter sentence so that way he could get out and find a job in time for the baby to be born. Nanette and Angelo would go on to have 2 more children together, and just like Mary, she suffered extreme abuse from Angelo until he turned his sadistic rage onto her 14-year-old daughter. His patterns of abuse are grotesque.
Yeah, fuck this guy.
It's really disgusting. I can't go into detail. He bragged to his friends that he had to, quote, this is very triggering, he had to, quote unquote, break her in.
Oh, that's vile.
After he was done sexually assaulting this 14-year-old girl, his stepdaughter, he got some of his older sons to join in as well. When Nanette found out about this, she escaped and fled to another state with all of her children and never looked back. She was terrified of what he'd do if he found her, but little did she know she was safe, out of sight, out of mind. He never came looking for her. He ended up marrying a woman named Deborah Taylor, which this marriage is very strange to me because there's very little known about their relationship, and unlike the rest, they didn't live together. They just stayed married. And I just don't really understand. I don't know if it was like just a paperwork thing. There's literally nothing on this marriage other than they were married but never lived together. He instead got an apartment with a roommate who would later recount what Angelo was really like as far as living with him. He caught him masturbating, watching children through the window with binoculars.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is just so gross.
He's disgusting. He's like a rabid, like nasty, sexual, deviant fucking creature. He's not human. He's not human at all. Now, and after that, Angelo allegedly shared that with his roommate how he sexually assaulted one of his sons and forced a number of his sons to sexually assault one of his own daughters. Assuming that the roommate couldn't take living with him, like who couldn't, this whole roommate situation did not last long. Angelo moved out and got his own place, and here he would really indulge his ego. Once he lived alone, his ego just became inflamed. At 41 years old, he considered himself a sex god, referred to himself as, quote, the Italian stallion. I'll pause so you guys can all clear your puke out of your mouth. Which is, I don't know. I think this is very odd that he considered himself a sex god, given the fact that he assaulted most of the people that he had sex with. It was not consensual whatsoever. So, ew. Though he was able to groom several teenage girls into quote-unquote dating him, I will not say that they actually dated because, again, they were children. He was with these teenage girls all at the same time, and I think that a number of them knew about each other. But for some reason, his grooming, his charm that he had that I don't see, it just attracted the vulnerable. It really, really did. One teen, he got pregnant twice. The first time she got an abortion, and the second time she suffered a miscarriage. Angelo had worked for mechanic shops off and on and worked at, on car detailing and all of this. So he decided to open up his own upholstery shop right behind his house. Later that year in 1975, his adoptive cousin, Kenny, would move to LA and live with him. Now, again, if you remember in the episode prior to this, that upholstery shop is where most of the murders took place, if not in his house directly. So it all kind of took place right there.
Just creeps me out so bad. I don't know why.
The one that, like, one of the murders that really got me was the girl that came in just to get her car detailed.
Yeah.
It was the last murder, I believe. But
they all really bother me. I mean, obviously. But, like,
yeah.
there's something about this one.
They're creepy. It's just really creepy. It's eerie.
It's just to think that human beings exist with that level of evil and vile, disgusting filth inside them.
And they walk amongst us.
And we just don't know because you can't tell by looking.
It could be the guy at any counter. The security guard? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, that's part of it. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then
you can't go to the grocery store. You can't go to the mechanic's office. Like, where can you go?
You just can't be near your own house.
Right? That one girl was getting out of her car to go walk
into
up
her
driveway.
home.
Yeah.
So my point is like, because I feel like a lot of things get blamed on victims for not being careful enough.
Right.
How the fuck you like a security guard? You're supposed to feel okay around them.
Right.
You're
if a
just
police
going
officer is handcuffing you and putting you in the back of that
you're
car,
just complying because look what happens when you don't.
Exactly.
And the thing that gets me too is that you can't even walk from a car to your front fucking door.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even go into an upholstery shop to get your car detailed. Like.
Mm-hmm.
The hatred of women is so pervasive and so terrifying to me. And I really feel like what it all boils down to is that we're not seen as people.
No.
We're objects.
Yeah. And because of that, we're
not even
safe.
animals.
No.
Because I've seen, like, I bet you those two would treat a dog better.
Yeah.
Than they'd treat a woman.
We're
like literal objects.
I'm pretty sure cats can walk down the street safely in front of them because there's so far no record of animal cruelty.
Yeah, that's why I bring it up. And now, of course, not all serial killers are the same. Like, I know Bundy and Dahmer hurt animals, but
most of the ones that we talked about were cruel to animals in childhood
because that was just
precursor
something
to murder.
Yeah.
But again, we're still treated better than animals.
Well, I think the reverse is true. I think animals are treated better.
That's what I meant. I meant. Yeah.
I mean, I just, I look at...
We're seen less than animals.
Of course. Mm-hmm. Property.
Yeah. And the more melanin you have, the even worse you're treated.
I don't even want to talk about that because it's just so fucked up and it makes me so sad and it didn't get any better and I hoped that it would.
Right. It's 2024, almost 2025.
We will never see a woman president in this country at this rate. Never. Never. The backlash that she just ran turned every state almost red.
Well, and not just that, it created an even more unsafe environment for women nationwide.
Mm-hmm. The whole your body, my choice shit.
Yeah.
I can't with that.
Mm-hmm. And that's something these men lived by. They lived their lives with the belief that not only were they better than every woman that came in their vicinity, every woman that came within their radius was a whore and should be treated less than and should just not live.
And that's how the majority of sex workers are viewed by the general populace anyway.
Yeah.
And it just...
Although you still hire them.
Of course.
That's what always gets me.
What baffles me
You're going to give them money and then act like they don't deserve air? Like,
I don't get it. Because I'm still in sex work. I'm just not in the physical aspect of sex work anymore.
Right.
And even my own clients are occasionally so disrespectful to me and so entitled.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just vile.
Mm-hmm.
I'm off my fucking soapbox. I don't have strength.
So back to Kenneth Bianchi. Kenneth Bianchi was born on May 22nd, 1951 in Rochester, New York as well. His birth mother was a 17-year-old alcoholic and sex worker who gave him up for adoption at birth. Locals Nicholas Bianchi and Frances Skil I can't say her last name. I am so sorry. I'm not Italian. They adopted him pretty early on. Early on in his childhood, he showed pretty extreme, concerning behaviors. He was a pathological liar and began having petit mal seizures by the age of 5. He was quick-tempered and was diagnosed with passive-aggressive personality disorder. This is as a young child.
I have never heard of that one.
Right? But to have a full-blown disorder, like I know the passive-aggressive, I get that, obviously. But yeah, as a full-blown disorder, it means that it was pretty rampant. Like that behavior was pretty ingrained into his psyche at a very young age. His mother would take him to the doctor for every little thing and he used this as a manipulation tactic to get her attention. He was also bedwetting, and she would take him to the doctor for examinations to make sure it was working properly, which many people attribute this part of his life to be what may have caused his sexual deviancy later because of the premature genital stimulation that the doctors, I mean, she was taking him to the doctors a lot, and they were, trying to figure out why he was bedwetting. And he was bedwetting to get attention, apparently, allegedly. But a lot of people believe that mixed with his knowing that his birth mother was a sex worker, the demeaning talk about her growing up being a sex worker, and then having these like extensive doctor visits where the doctor would like touch him, I think that it bridged some sort of weird gap in his brain.
And so this is why when people are like, don't get political, this is why.
Right. And I'm not saying that I believe this. I don't believe anything because I'm not a doctor, but a lot of psychologists root some of his behaviors back to this.
Yes, because the thing is this conditioning and making associations and like Pavlovian responses.
Right.
So we do got to watch how we talk about people. Who's to say that if they hadn't talked about his mother that way, if they just even hadn't talked about her at all, if maybe it would have kept him from having these kinds of urges.
Right.
I'm not saying it would have suddenly cured whatever mental illnesses were all swirling around up there, but maybe it wouldn't have made him into what he became.
I will say from experience as a adoptive child who was told stories about their birth mother, I was told that she was 13 when she had me, which that was played up a lot of like, you know, sexuality as a teenager, blah, 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 blah. When I was sexually assaulted at 13, being the same age that I thought that my birth mother was, I don't think that was her age now. But I remember it put an idea in my head, a belief in my head.
And almost a resignation and acceptance that was your fate too.
Yeah, that oh, well, if, you know, she was sexually active at that age,
then maybe that's just what I am.
I've already been, I believed that since I had already been soiled, quote unquote, that nothing else mattered. Because it's that purity
culture bullshit.
Yes, because I grew up in that culture, in that household. I believed that it was basically off limits and I would literally allow anyone to touch me at that point because I thought that I was
dirty,
over with.
Dirty.
That my purity had been gone, so why act pure? So I definitely went through a stage in my teenage years where I was just ridiculously sexually active and in very inappropriate situations, but it stemmed from that idea that sex made me less than, just like my mother, and that's what I was born from.
So you're just apple ain't falling far from the tree.
Exactly.
Just doing what I'm doing.
You tend to disassociate and try to heal your trauma through more trauma.
What we do is we recreate what hurt us.
Yes.
So we can have control.
Yes.
But what ends up happening is we just re-traumatize ourselves over and over.
Yep.
And I think that the first step is to change the rhetoric in which we talk about these things.
Absolutely.
And purity culture needs to get flushed down the toilet. You could listen to me out there. I don't care if you fucked once, none, or 8 million times. You are just as good.
Right.
It's just like pooping.
Right.
I hate to tell you, because poop's not sexy. Not to me. It's just like eating a sandwich. It's a biological function. We all want it.
Right.
Except asexual people. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, it's a natural drive and urge. It's not dirty. Calm down.
Absolutely.
Forgive yourself.
Yeah.
And
forgive yourself said that to you. And understand that, you know, you have governing over your body. It's you are
a sovereign entity.
Absolutely.
It is your body and your choice, regardless of what anyone says or does, because they're morally wrong, and history will show it. Hopefully, one day, if we don't explode.
Absolutely. And you know, getting back to Bianchi, a lot of psychologists believe that. I mean, obviously, we can draw the clear line between him and the hatred of women, especially with sex workers. But a lot of people do believe that this relationship with his mother, this pathological mother-son relationship with his adoptive mother, could have also been a major key role in
yeah,
his
sure.
killing and hatred towards women as well. Either way, it's evident that his behavior started early and only built further as he grew up. He spent his early education years in a private Catholic school, which his mother hoped this strict environment would straighten him out, so to speak, but it didn't. When he was 12, he pulled down the pants of a 6-year-old girl at his school because he apparently just liked doing it. When he was scolded, he showed absolutely no remorse.
Oh, it's so vile.
Isn't that disgusting? When his father died of pneumonia that following year, he showed no emotion. And because of the loss of his father and the income, he had to switch to public schools where he'd go on to graduate in 1971. He got out. He married his high school sweetheart, Brenda Beck. But the marriage didn't last very long. The two separated and divorced after only 8 months. Now, during this time, after high school, there was a series of murders in Rochester, New York, dubbed the Alphabet Murders from 1971 to 1973, where 3 young girls, ages 10 to 11, were kidnapped, sexually assaulted, strangled, and dumped in wilderness areas in the surrounding towns. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Dubbed the Alphabet Murders because each of the victims had repeating first and last letters of their names, which matched the areas that they were found. For example, Carmen Colon, age 10, was found in Churchville, CCC.
Oh, that's fucked.
Wanda Wachowski, age 11, was found in Webster, WWW. Michelle Menendez, Mainza, age 11, was found in Macedon. So MMM. So it's just really fucking eerie how strategic that all was.
Yeah, it's gross, and I hate it.
All 3 girls, 10 to 11 years old, all 3 girls were different ethnicities. Kenneth Bianchi happened to work at an ice cream parlor at the time, really, really close by, very near to 2 of the crime scenes. His car was believed to have been seen leaving 2 of the crime scenes, and one of the girls told her father that she was going to get ice cream before she disappeared.
Yeah, I think it's pretty
He was
obvious.
a suspect, but he was never charged in the murders, and of course he denied any involvement.
Yeah.
Now, Bianchi's dream in life was to become a police officer. He enrolled in the Monroe County Community College, where he studied police science and psychology, but ended up dropping out after only 1 semester. He tried to apply for a position at the sheriff's office, but he was denied, so he became a security guard at a jewelry store instead. He was soon fired, though, for stealing some expensive pieces and then giving them to his many girlfriends that he had at the time. This would become a habit at pretty much every security job that he would get, which brings us to 1975 when Bianchi moves in with Buono. It's as if the perfect storm was created. Buono had perfected his way of luring young women and girls with his cop disguise and taught Bianchi all of his secrets of baiting, capturing, and grooming women to pimp them out as a little side hustle.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Isn't it? But isn't it kind of strange how, like, the 2 cousins didn't really speak to one another. They're like almost 20 years apart. And I just think it's strange that Buono was over on the other side of the country disguised as a cop, while Bianchi is in New York trying to become a cop. It's just kind of strange. It's just one of those weird coincidences, I think.
I feel like there's just a certain type of person drawn to that line of work.
Right.
That I don't want nothing to do with.
Right. But how they just came together.
It's really yucky,
And
and I don't
immediately,
like it.
I mean, look at their past. Like, both of them.
Very similar.
Sexually assaulting.
Mhm.
Just doing all these crimes, criminally charged up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For them to come together, and they're not even technically biologically related. That's the weird thing.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's fucking weird. So that's when they abducted and pimped out Sabra Hannon and Becky Spears. And of course, when their plan to pimp out teenagers fell through, they moved on to killing. Bianchi continued to push forward with his dream of becoming a police officer. He applied to 2 different local police stations, but neither of them would hire him. So he continued with odd jobs and security work. Soon, he worked up enough money to get his own apartment, he bought a Cadillac, and he got himself a girlfriend, a woman by the name of Kelly Boyd, whom he met at work. He would be with her until he got arrested. She never could have imagined that he'd end up being this vicious killer that she'd read about in the paper and seen plastered all over the news. To her, he was a sweet and caring partner. He was gentle and kind and respectful. She honestly didn't believe the reports initially. She thought they had the wrong guy. Bianchi eventually moved in with Kelly, and in May of 1977, she announced that she was pregnant. He proposed, but she refused to marry him, and it's unclear why she refused his proposal, but they did stay together regardless.
Oh, yeah.
They ended up being considered common law marriage by the time he was arrested. The murders started just a few months later in October of 1977 with the sexual assault and murder of Yolanda Washington while Kelly was with child.
Disgusting.
The killing stopped right around the time Bianchi's son was born. He continued looking for jobs in law enforcement, even while committing the murders with his cousin, even going so far as to making friends with officers and riding around in patrol cars scouting for the killer. Which oddly happens in a lot of cases that we've covered, specifically in California.
Yeah, we've done this before.
Yeah, and I can't remember if it was like the original Night Stalker.
It was this Night Stalker,
Joseph
for sure.
D'Angelo.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just so bizarre because
Strange.
I don't remember if that was LAPD. I think it was.
Yeah, I believe it was.
Or like San Bernardino or like
or
right
I don't know now. I can't remember shit.
But yeah, I just find that very interesting. It's so eerie, creepy, makes my skin crawl.
Oh, I hate it.
So apparently, Bianchi had actually been brought in for questioning for the Hillside murders in California. And when Buono found out, he was furious. He allegedly threatened to kill Bianchi if he didn't leave the state. So it's believed that this is why Bianchi moved his family to Washington all of a sudden in May of 1978. The Hillside Stranglers trial was the longest trial in U.S. history at the time, nearly lasting 3 years from early 1981 until late 1983. If it had just lasted a couple months longer, it would have been a complete 3 years. The majority of the trial was essentially trying to determine if Bianchi was sane enough to stand trial, which of course was part of his plan to extend the sentencing. But the air around the case really heavily leans on whether the two worked together equally or if there was a ringleader. If one of the two were less likely to have killed had they not been convinced to, had they not gotten together, or were the killings mere like would they kill independently had they never met or had they never like lived together, or were the killings merely because they got together and influenced each other? Honestly, this is still strongly debated today. Even in studying this case, I've studied this case off and on for like the past couple of years, honestly, and I still cannot really come to my own personal conclusion on the matter. Like, I can't tell if Buono was the one that was like, hey, Bianchi, we should kill some motherfuckers. Or if, Buono was like, hey, we should just pimp out these girls. And Bianchi was like, maybe we should pimp them out and kill them. It's really hard to say if Buono would have killed without Bianchi because he didn't. Angelo Buono, even though he was the older cousin and, a lot of times you would think the older one would be more influential on the younger one, Buono had not killed yet by the time the two of them got together. We don't know if Bianchi was already a serial killer or not.
I would think so. I think of the two of them, he was the more vicious.
All of the suspects in the Alphabet case, there was even another suspect in the Alphabet case that went to California and killed with the same like double letters, but his DNA was taken years later and it was not a match.
That's what I thought.
None of the suspects were matches. I haven't seen that they ran
I don't think they
Bianchi's
did.
DNA? I don't think so.
I don't think they did.
He's the only one that is like just kind of checks all the boxes on that one.
That's what I think.
So in my opinion, I really do think that Bianchi would have either been the ringleader, but then see, I keep going back and forth because Buono was the one that said like, I'll fucking kill you if you don't leave the state, right? So Buono was calling a lot of the shots. Bianchi called the shots on that one girl that came into the upholstery shop. Buono wasn't going to kill her. Bianchi was the one that wanted to. Bianchi also killed the 2 girls later in Washington by himself. Girl, like that whole
I think
question,
it's a dynamic we don't even understand.
I really do. Personally, in my own personal opinion, I think if those 2 cousins never lived together, I think they both would have been serial killers.
I agree with you 100,000%.
On their own, absolutely. I think Buono, it might have taken him a little bit more time to kill. But I think that would have definitely been a motive after he had a little bit more assaults under his belt. But yeah. As Chief Justice Ronald M. George wrote in a letter to Digital Commons LMU Loyola Law School, that's so hard to say for me, quote, as the trial judge in this lengthy proceeding, I know from firsthand experience that this indeed was a trial of considerable magnitude and impact. Beyond the defendant, who was most visible in the courtroom, the case affected scores of individuals and their families, the victims and those close to them, those involved in the investigative stages, including law enforcement and forensic experts, the primary courtroom participants, the attorneys, the jurors, the approximately 400 witnesses, the court staff. All of them gave much and sacrificed much during this 2-year ordeal. I just can't imagine 400 witnesses. That's a lot. That's really a lot, my dude. That is a lot. During the trial, Kenny Bianchi formed a friendship relationship. I don't know how romantic it was. From behind bars with a woman named Veronica Lynn Compton. She was an actress and a playwright who was obsessed with serial killers. The 2 got to talking and she told him all about her fascinations and gave him a screenplay to look over and critique. It was called The Mutilated Cutter, about a female serial killer. She even admitted to wanting to buy a morgue just so she could have sex with dead bodies. She's fucking gross. She did stand trial against him though, so there's that. But he thought this was perfect, like
Jesus,
meeting her and seeing how like gross she was. He thought this was the perfect opportunity to sway the case. He asked her to stage a copycat murder to look like the Hillside Strangler was still on the loose, like they caught the wrong guys. He gave her a sample of his semen in a rubber glove, gross, which they didn't have DNA at this time, but they did have blood typing. And so that's what he was hoping to get out of the staged crime. She attempted to strangle a woman in a motel room, but she was overpowered and then subsequently arrested. Bianchi would continue to try to plead insanity, which of course was denied. By the end, Angelo Buono was sentenced to life in prison and Kenneth Bianchi was sentenced to 6 life terms with the possibility of parole. Though he had been denied every time so far, the next time he is eligible is next year in 2025, which hopefully they don't let him out. Like, I think it's pretty obvious that he shouldn't be let out. But I do have my suspicions because Kenneth Bianchi changed his name recently. So,
so dumb.
Yeah. So he's serving his sentences in Washington State. He has been trying to change his name since 1984. He tried to change his name first to Nicholas Fontana, but that didn't work, though it's labeled as one of his aliases. On November 5th of 2023, just 2 years ago, or about a year ago, at the age of 72, he officially changed his name to Anthony D'Amato. Sorry, it was easier to say in my head. So yeah, he's just changed his name and he's ready for parole soon. I just really hope they didn't allow this name change knowing that they were going to let him out. I really hope that they gave him this name change as a way to like kind of shut them the fuck up. Because he really never came out as to like why he changed his name. I think it's pretty obvious why he changed his name. He didn't want to be associated with these crimes, especially in prison, with other criminals. You know, they'd probably beat his ass or whatever. So I think he just wants to stay a little low key while he's in prison. Either way, I just really hope they don't fucking let him out. Angelo Buono married Christine Kizuka in 1983. They met because she was actually married to a man in the cell next to him. She was a mother of 3 and worked...
How could you?
Isn't it gross?
How could you?
It's really...
It just fills me with rage.
When people marry inmates, I mean, I guess I could understand if you fall in love with somebody who like maybe didn't commit the crime or maybe it was a petty crime, like a drug crime.
Robbed a bank.
Or sold drugs. Like, I will never get behind somebody in prison for selling drugs unless it was...
It's like cartel shit.
Well, unless it
murder.
was fentanyl.
Yeah, you can go fuck yourself for that
you
shit.
Can absolutely, take a handful of fentanyl yourself, bro. But no, I don't know how you could fall in love with someone like that.
Child rapist.
Especially through glass. Like, they never touched. They were never allowed to.
Good, don't. Yeah. Ugh. That put a stain on your soul ain't never going to wash off.
Well, and so she worked for the state. She wasn't like a guard or like in law enforcement. She was actually a supervisor at the California State Employment Development Department, which is basically their version of unemployment office as well as like the disability office. But still, she worked for the state and was married to a serial killer and rapist. Which I feel like there should be checks involved there.
I just feel she should be put in a cannon and fired into the sun.
With him.
He should just be grounded to dust. I just can't with these guys.
Well, he ended up dying of a heart attack alone in his cell in 2002 at the California State Prison. So that's wonderful.
Hope he enjoys hell.
At least he is rotting where he belongs. As far as Kenneth Bianchi is concerned, I don't know. Do we need to like write and petition, or do you think that they're just like gonna leave him in there to rot?
I think they'll leave him in there to
rot. I really hope so.
He's too dangerous.
Just don't understand. I mean, D'Angelo got out, so you know. So I don't know. It's one of those things. I just worry, but I really hope that it's evident that he doesn't need to be released.
No.
I think especially with his name change, he is even more dangerous and volatile. Yeah. He's in Washington.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just stupid. I don't know why.
Right?
My brain is just so
No, it's
scrambled.
okay. I assumed that they would put the cousins in the same place.
I can see why they didn't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They got to keep them separate.
Yeah. Fuck them.
Absolutely.
But don't fuck business time. I mean, unless you want to.
Consensually.
Oh, yeah. Gently, sensually.
Mm-hmm.
Business time will make love to you.
Mm-hmm.
Or it'll rail you if you want. You can call it daddy. Anyway. Yeah, I know. I make everyone uncomfortable. It's fine. I have an exciting new thing I've done. And I'm just now telling you about it, Willow, because I just sometimes do these kind of things.
You do.
You don't like it. I don't care.
I'm not phased anymore.
No, you used to, but you used to like look at me like, and I'm just like,
yeah.
That's me flipping her off.
I don't like surprises.
So there's a new feature on Patreon where you can buy individual episodes.
Oh yeah, you told me about this.
Well, I had me an idea.
What's your idea?
Hey, y'all, have we not covered something you want?
Oh yeah.
Do you want us to cover it? Do you want me, Willow, and Maris? Do you want just Maris? Just me? Just Willow? We don't care.
Boss us around.
And it can be over anything. History. Yeah, be my daddy. It can be history. It could be crime. What? Shut up. It could be ghosts. It could be aliens.
Ooh, tell me to do ghost stories.
We
haven't done a ghost story in so long.
Yeah,
honestly.
You need to do one for Patreon next month.
I will. Because
December is a spooky time.
December is like the time that you sit around the fire and tell ghost stories before bed.
The Victorians used to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
so we'll do that.
They were a grim bunch. Anyway, we will review shows or movies. Like I'm up for anything. If you want me to go on an unhinged rant for an hour, I can. And I will. So, pinned at the top on Patreon, at the very top of our page, it's a public, I think it's public. Anyway, yeah.
It'd be public.
You can purchase a commission episode.
You don't have to be a Patreon member to purchase.
That is correct. You don't. So you can purchase it, and then you will email me and tell me what you want us to do.
What is it, like a couple bucks?
No.
How much is it?
20. Because it's an hour.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
It's a full hour of whatever, and it's a private. We will never put it anywhere else. It's just for you.
Oh, a private one?
Yeah.
So not on Patreon? Just
No.
Oh.
It's a private commission just for you.
That's kind of sexy.
You're going to talk to us ahead of time, like over Discord. I'm going to get on Discord voice, and I'm going to talk to you, or I'll call you on the phone. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
If you want. I mean, if you don't want, that's cool too. There's only like a couple stipulations, okay?
Okay.
I'm not watching pornography for you. Don't be weird.
Yeah. Or anime.
I can't watch anime.
Lillian hates anime.
Now I'm going to be fair. Is it the golden age of anime, which is the late 80s and all of the 90s? I love that shit. Vampire Hunter D, Ghost in the Shell,
on paper.
Sailor Moon,
Yeah.
Inuyasha even. Hell yeah, that shit's cute and I'm here for it. Anime today with all of its weird fan service and like 3,000-year-old woman who looks like a 10-year-old girl. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Weird shit. Not into it. Or it's like the plot makes no sense in the end they're just killing God for some reason. I mean, I understand. I too would like to beat the shit out of God.
Currently, right.
But I don't get it. Mm-hmm. Also, if you're having Maris review a movie because he doesn't like movies and it's funny to make him watch stuff, no extreme violence or gore. He cannot take it. He will cry and have a panic attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just he cannot do it.
Precious.
He's gentle baby on the inside. I mean, he's an asshole and he's a big dick, but he can't take especially violence towards women or children.
Yeah.
Or animals. You punch shit out of a dude, and he's like, that's fine. But, like, none of the others. Stop it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of our only stipulations. If Willow has any, name them now, because I don't know what hers are. I'll do just about anything.
I'm not really into child death.
Yeah, I mean, well, if it's true crime, we can cover it.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't want to watch a movie with a bunch of children being murdered.
No.
I don't like slashers. I'm out on that. I'm not going to watch Terrifier. You can go fuck yourself. I don't want to see a woman sawed in half via her vagina. No thanks.
Oh, no.
It's not my bag.
No.
But you guys get the gist.
Yeah.
And I assume most of you listening are going to want true crime or like a mystery or history or something like that.
Ooh,
Cool.
my next case on Patreon is going to be the Biba Henry and Nicole Smallman.
I'm not familiar with this.
Yeah, Nicole Smallman case. Fuck that case. I know if you know that case, you're already riled up with me. But it's one that's going to get your blood boiling and get you even more angry at the police. It's a huge fuck the police.
I've not heard of it, but I'm already mad.
Yeah.
So this week on Patreon, I want to say it'll be up Saturday or Sunday. The episode. I'm done with the research now.
Mm-hmm.
I have to tighten it up a little bit. Is the show How to Catch a Predator?
I've never seen it, but I know of it.
You're familiar? Take a Seat.
Yeah.
Chris Hansen. Terrible fucking show. Killed a guy. The whole thing's bad and made problems worse. And so I'm doing a takedown of that entire show.
Cool.
Because it's still lauded as something good. And it just fucking wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's probably about 45 minutes to an hour. I go pretty in depth on that. I thought you guys would find it interesting, and I wanted to take a step back from the rise of white nationalism because sad.
Yeah.
Can't.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do something else sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got merch, and it's what?
A great
Cold.
Christmas present.
You know what else is a great Christmas present? A subscription to our Patreon. You can now gift our Patreon subscription to somebody.
No shit, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm. And if you're curious about buying individual Patreon episodes, they are $5 each and 3 to 5. I haven't really settled on them. I think the longer ones will be 5 and the short ones will be 3.
Hell yeah.
You can go and probably with it, I'd say give me about another week or two because I have to go individually and set them all.
Right.
And there are hundreds and hundreds of them. So
many hundreds.
There's over 600 hours, and honestly, it would be cheaper to just get a Patreon sub. But hey, I get it if you just wanted to hear an episode and don't like monthly subscriptions. If you have received a notice that Patreon is going to start charging you more if you're an Apple iOS user, fear not. I took the hit on that.
Yeah.
We pay for that fee, not you. We're not doing that to you. That's fucked.
Yeah.
But other than that, if you're listening on YouTube, it'd be really cool if you like and subscribe and make a little comment.
Let's discuss further, like who you think the ringleader of this thing, or if there was a ringleader.
Yeah.
I'd really like to hear your thoughts and opinions.
You can also, if you're
this
listening
case.
on Spotify, you can leave comments there. You can leave comments on Buzzsprout if you're listening there. You can join our Discord and go to the case discussions channel. And I want to hear from you on this one. I'm really curious what you think.
Yeah.
But if all you can do is listen, hey, thank you.
Thank you.
It's so nice.
We really appreciate you. And you are why we are here.
Yeah, otherwise I wouldn't do it.
In what year is this? What season?
2024. We're in season 4.
Season 4,
Season
guys.
4.
I even forgot where we were.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Look at us go. It's your fault.
I hope you're proud of yourself. You brought this on yourself.
And we love you for it.
Yeah, mwah, mwah. All right, babies. I will see you later.
Good night.
Us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Libby.